Hey guys, Jalen here from TeamBurningInfinitey, bringing you guys another Buddyfight deck profile. And we got my Prism Dragons post Chaos Control Crisis. Sorry I didn't do one for Crossing Generation. Like I said, we were on hiatus for a while, but now we're back, and I just wanted to bring you guys this deck. Even though a lot of people probably don't really care because they're like, I hate prisms. Trust me, I wish I would just record all the times I play this deck, and all I constantly hear from people is like, while I'm playing them, is, man, I hate this deck, man, I hate your deck. I don't like Thunder Empire, but I don't literally sit the entire freaking matchup going, man, I really hate your deck, man, I really hate this card, man, I really hate... Yes, I get it, you don't like my deck, you want to keep telling me in my ear? I don't care that you don't like it. I just care that you can let me play the game while focusing and you not constantly complaining about my deck just because I have a defensive, just because the deck has a defensive play style. Either way, let me get on to the deck profile before you all get bored. My buddy is Adora SD. It's a 3/1/3 size 0 with a 1 gauge call cost. If there's a size 3 Prism Dragon in your center, it cannot be destroyed on left and right. And if a size 3 would be destroyed, you can put this to the drop zone and save it. So it's a really good card for just the fact that your opponent can't really focus on it unless they can really bounce it, which only Magic Roll can do, and that deck's hasn't been relevant in a while. So this is just a really great card on the side to protect your 3, and just in general be poking while they can't really do much about him. Then to start with the zeros, we have 4 copies of Red Crystal Dragon Marrow. Marrow is a 2/1/1 size 0, and he has Red Jewel Tears as his ability. It's a named ability that can be used once per turn, and it really only activates on your opponent's turn. During your opponent's turn, when a Prism Dragon is destroyed, this does include himself, I get a gauge and draw. So it's just pretty dang good for getting more gauge and more cards in hand for when my zeros are dying, because I really don't like when my opponents just keep going, I'm just going to go for your zeros, and then I don't get anything out of it, but now I do. So it's fine with me. It does really suck when you go in Onis or something and they use Hades Fall on him, and that's where people would be like, Rizzling's better, but I don't like Rizzling, and I don't play Rizzling, and Rizzling has horrible power and absolutely irrelevant 3k defense. Yes, he gives me my immediate draw, but I like the idea of getting gauge with it, and, you know, higher power, so I can actually hit things other than literally just Pentar, Kuraha, Io, and other things. Only those, while this can hit that and more, so I like Marrow. Also, it's just a way better thing off Lapis Lazuli spikes. 3k power on a size 0 is pretty dang good. And then even 4k on Adora SD. Oh, speaking of him, he is at 4, of course, because he's my buddy. Now, we have 2 copies of Iron Crystal Dragon Eva Clear. It's basically a 0 and a 3 altogether, but let me explain that. It's a 5/2/7 size 3 with 1 gauge call cost. It becomes a size 0, basically, on the left and right, if you have originally size 3 Prism Dragon in your center. But if he himself is in the center, he's still a 3, which really helps if you aren't drawing an Adora. So it's just basically a backup 3, and it's also a 0 when you need it. And has the ability when it, the Raging Spirit effect, basically, the Demon Goto effect, whatever you want to call it. Whenever your opponent attacks with a card, its attack is redirected to this instead. So then we have 3 copies of Indigo Jet Crystal Dragon Adora, 3 gauge, top deck 1 soul, and it has the ability to lower the power and defense of all cards in your opponent's field by 1,000 defense and power. Anyway, it has double attack Soul Guard, and it can be destroyed by effects when it's in the center. Like all the good Adoras you should be playing. With double attack, it just really makes it a really big threat. Like your opponent trying to like go against the mirror or other size 3 decks. This is really helpful. To just lower the defense and make it much easier to break down their walls. And then it's just also helpful for when you have an item out, like either spikes, Lapis Lazuli, or crystal spikes, just boosting this defense and then lowering all their power is just like really detrimental for them to try and hit this. Then we have 3 copies of Avatar Glass Crystal Adora, 7/3/7, Soul Guard counterattack, 3 gauge, top deck 1 soul, and it can't, like all the good Adoras, it cannot be destroyed if it's in your center by effects. And then if you cast a spell during your opponent's turn, you get a draw. The ability only activates once per turn. The counter attack is pretty okay on this card. There's a few matchups that's pretty useless in, and that's pretty much Thunder Empire and DCE. The mirror match, this is like the worst monster to draw in the mirror match for me. So that's why I don't like the 4 of him. He's really good in quite a few in a few matchups, but he's not really great in kind of what I feel are some of the key ones. So that's why I alternate between 3/3 with the two, with him and Indigo. Then we of course have the main Adora, 4 copies of Quintessence Crystal Dragon Adora, 3 gauge, top deck 2 soul, 7/2/7 size 3, soul guard, double attack, and the simple ability of if this card is in your center, it cannot be destroyed by effects, and you cannot take damage by card effects. So absolutely amazing for dealing with penetrate or anything that's just like, oh, I'm gonna burn you so I don't have to actually attack your 3. It's like, nope, none of that. Shame on you. So I really love it, and it's kind of the main Adora, of course. I always want to see it, usually in every matchup compared to the other ones. The other ones are really good in other aspects, but nothing beats the original. Then we have Then onto the spells, we have 2 copies of Prism Interrupt. Prism Interrupt is a new Secret Pack card, which I am infatuated with. But it's still got its problems. Either way, it has the it has a condition of only being able to be casted during your opponent's attack specifically. Its call cost is returning a size 3 Prism Dragon to your hand, and then you can either choose 1 of 2 abilities, and this is all counter, by the way, obviously. You can either call a Prism Dragon size 3 from your hand by paying its call cost, or you can return a monster on your opponent's field to their hand. I have only used the second ability once, and I was against a no soul Vortis, so it wasn't that. It was pretty good, but it was only because I didn't really have the gauge to call out an Adora again. Either way, the main part of this card is you basically have just any Adora with no soul, and you're just like, oh no, I don't have a really great defense card right now. It's like, oh wait, I have this. You use Prism Interrupt, you return the Adora back to your hand, and then you can call it back, and it doesn't redirect attack to it, so they have missed their target for the attack, and you get to get your soul back. So as long as you have the gauge, which I really pride my deck in getting enough so I can do it, you can absolutely shut down your opponent's attack phase, because now they thought they were going to kill that Adora, but now it's going to be an uphill battle again. Then we have 2 copies of Prism Relic. I do run 12 size 3s, so this can really help when they start clocking in my hand. What it does is discard the size 3 from your hand by size 3 Prism Dragon from your hand by paying it, and that's the cast cost. And I get 3 gauge, a life, and 1 draw. The 3 gauge is what's just really helpful because, like I said, calling stuff back again with Prism Interrupt can be difficult if you don't have Mystery Sending in Soul or haven't been getting your brush uppers, so this really is helpful. The 1 draw is basically to make up for the discard, but it's essentially you're just kind of getting back the discard. But you are getting the gauge, which is really helpful, and 1 life is pretty alright. Then, for the last of the 2 ofs, we have 2 copies of Selection of Adora. This is what replaced Rizzling for me. I like Rizzling, but this just does so much more for me from what I've been testing. Selection of Adora, you can only cast it. You have a Prism Dragon monster, not specifically in your center, but just a Prism Dragon monster and an item equipped. You can either give a crit and penetrate to a Prism Dragon for the turn, or you can add back a Prism Dragon, specifically monster. Yep. Prism Dragon monster back for your drop zone to your hand, and you get a gauge. It's just really good for making getting Adora SDs after I use their ability back to my hand, and this gives me a gauge so I can pay to call them back again, or getting Marrows because people are gonna keep trying to kill it. So it's really good. Then we have 3 copies of Mystery Setting. into the soul of a... Its cast is just put into the soul of a Prism Dragon. I get a gauge whenever the Prism Dragon is in the soul of the attack. Its ability only lasts once per turn, and it cannot be removed by opponent's effects. So just refilling the soul and getting gauge. Really helpful card. Then we have 3 copies of Enhancement. It's basically you get a gauge when you cast it, and then if you have a Prism Dragon 3 in your center, you also get a draw. So it's a gauge and draw. You can only cast Enhancement once per turn. So it's just helps with more consistency and getting gauge for items. Then we have 3 copies of Crystallization Phenomena. You can only cast it when your center monster is destroyed, and then you pay a life and draw a card, and then choose a monster in your opponent's field, nullify all its abilities, and then rest it for the turn. Nullify all its abilities for the turn and rest it. So it's just really, really good. You can only cast 1 Crystallization Phenomena per turn, so you can't abuse these, but you can really make this worth your while when you cast it when you have Glass Crystal, because this already gives you a draw, and then Glass Crystal gives you a draw when you cast a spell during your opponent's turn. So yeah, you basically get a draw to it, nullify something, and rest it. So it's pretty good. Then we have 4 copies of Prism Cancel, your basic null. If you have a Prism Dragon in your center, you can cast it, and then you have an item equipped, they can't nullify this cast. So pretty cool. It's free, helps with dealing with unrelenting bots, just really great. And I think, of course, for staple, we have 4 copies of Brush Upper. It's basically a Dragon Barrier. You can only cast it if you have a Prism Dragon in your center, protect it. Counter protect. Basically, it's destroyed, but it remains on field, and then you get a gauge where you have 6 or more life. Then for your items, we have 3 copies of Crystal Spikes. Crystal Spikes is a pay 1 gauge item, 004. It has the ability to prevent your Prism Dragon from being nullified, and this ability can't be nullified. It gives 2,000 to your center, and at the end of the battle, if you have a Prism Dragon in your center, so it doesn't matter if they attack your left and right, and then as long as you have a center afterwards, they take 1 damage, and the ability only activates once per turn. So it's just really helpful for burning your opponent, getting them scared, like, oh no, is he going to impact me if I let this burn go off? People are always scared of Crystal Spikes, always trying to destroy it. And that's why I love Brush Upper, because it always protects it can protect any Prism Dragon. Then we have Lapis Lazuli Spikes, 004, pay 1 gauge. Sounds familiar. It prevents all your Prism Dragons from having their abilities null, not just the center. And it gives all Prism Dragons 1k defense and power. And then at the end of a battle, if you have a Prism Dragon in your center, just like Crystal Spikes, it gives 1,000 defense to the center, but this ability is not once per turn, so this can keep stacking, which is pretty cool. Then the last we have is 3 copies of Cristiano Crystal Shoot. It can only, I mean, you probably all already know this. Some of you probably watch the anime, but if you don't know, you can only cast it during your opponent's final phase. You have to have taken no damage that turn. Paying life's not damage, by the way. So if I use I have people go, you use Crystallization Phenomena. That's paying life, genius, not taking damage. Look at Fifomni. Anyway, you have to have taken no damage. You have to have a Prism Dragon 3 in your center, and your opponent has to be at 4 less life. Sounds like a lot of conditions, but it's pretty easy. It's pretty not situational. Not extremely situational, what I mean. Pay 2 gauge, cast cost, and deal 4 damage to your opponent. Can be reduced, can't be nullified, and they cannot use revival effects. They can change their life with other effects if they don't hit 0, but they can't just basically use style retaliation and burn nova and all that kind of junk. Anyway, hope you guys like this video. Subscribe to TeamBurningInfinitey for more Buddyfight content, and I'll see you guys later. Jalen from TBIDevlon going out.